Coming up on Main Street, 4 young storytellers share with us stories of love, pride, adventure, and learning. Join us for Young Storytellers next on Main Street.
Funding for Main Street was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you who support quality programs such as Main Street that appear only on public television.
Hello and welcome to Main Street. I'm your host, Barbara Deeb. On this edition of the program, we are going to meet 4 young storytellers as they give voice to their vision. Scott Vennell brings us a tale of love and longing from World War II that's being retold in wearable art, made by the granddaughter of the authors. Karen Webb witnessed the pride and hard work that went hand in hand in her story about the resurrection of an F-111 airplane that's taken its rightful place in the Aviation Heritage Park in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Ryan Vennell has a passion for sports, and he tells us a story about on-the-job learning at WKU as part of the Hilltopper Sports Satellite Network, or HSSN, a place where students and professionals work side by side to bring WKU athletics to life on television for excited fans. Finally, we'll take a step back in time with Neil Purcell, who discovered a Wild West town in western Kentucky called Copper Canyon. This story won an award for excellence in college production from the Ohio Valley chapter of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. We're bringing you stories from young storytellers on this edition of Main Street.
This piece actually faced several challenges. The first off was trying to get the beautiful story out of the grandmother. The interview went a little rough. It was my first time producing, really my first time leading an interview for a show like this. And so I asked questions, and I guess they were a little close-ended, or they weren't worded in an effective way to get her to tell a story. And so I think I asked 5 questions and maybe got 10 seconds in responses, which is my fault. Like, I didn't ask the right questions. And finally, the granddaughter stepped up and she said, "Grandma, just tell this kid your story." And she really opened up from that point forward. And the interview was phenomenal past that point. What it was is, it was a WKU alumni who had a grandma, and her grandma and grandfather met right before World War II. And they were actually about to get married, or they wanted to get married before he left. But a few days before they could actually get it done, he left, went to war, and so they wrote, each one of them wrote a letter every day, back and forth to each other. And so they had thousands of letters by the time that the war was over. And so now what this lady was doing is she was taking the letters, making copies of them, and actually cutting out significant words or portions of the letter and turning them into jewelry. And so I thought it was a fantastic story. It's nothing like I'd ever seen before, and it's funny because the story literally fell into my lap. You hear it a lot in broadcasting classes and where they say everyone has a story, and it's not cliche because everyone truly does have a story. Something happened in every person's life that is truly worth telling, and you don't know what it's going to be until you sit down and talk to someone, or in my case, someone had already told the story, but I was trying to share it in a different medium. And so I will be honest, before starting here, I might have seen that jewelry and be like, that's cool, but I wouldn't have done much with it. But since working at the station, I realized that as journalists and broadcasters, we have a duty to share these stories with the world. These people have inspiring stories that can really change people, and so it's our duty to tell those. In my case, it's a love story from back in the 1940s, but love, especially in this case, it's not dated. It's still relevant today, and I think a lot of young couples can actually learn a lot from these two individuals. They stuck together for 3 years during World War II, where their only contact was writing letters. Whereas today, some people, if they lose touch with their significant other for a month or two, they start to fall apart. But these 2 individuals found a way back in the 1940s to have their love shared across thousands of miles in an ocean, and I think that is absolutely phenomenal.
lot of people make jewelry or whatnot, but I actually been taking something that's one of my great passions, which is family and letter writing, and I've turned that into jewelry. So I've taken my grandparents' World War II love letters and I've been turning them into what people have called wearable art. I grew up hearing about this torrid love affair my grandparents had for 3 years, 3 months, and 4 days during World War II, and how they wrote each other every day.
Well, I met him when I was 18. I was a senior in high school. That's when I met him. And I really kind of fell for him right away. And we went together 3 years before he was drafted. He was in Atlantic City waiting to go overseas, and they thought they'd go, and then they'd go, and then they didn't, and so they were there. So I decided that, well, I'd just go up there to see him. And I bought this dress to take. And I told my mother, I said, well, I think maybe we might get married if I get up there, you know. But anyway, the day before I was supposed to go, he called me and told me not to come because they were leaving in the morning. And then he was gone for 3 years, so it was a long time. When he first went in, they moved him different places, you know. And I told him, I said, well, when you're in a place where you think you're going to stay for a long time, write me a letter, and each paragraph can start with a letter where you're staying. So when I got this letter one day, and it started with an N, and I thought, well, I better get my pencil. So I got my pencil and read the letter, and then when I got through with the letter, I knew where he was, but I never did tell anybody. I wrote every day for 3 years and 3 months, and he did too. So there was a lot of letters. And of course, you didn't ever know if they were coming home or not, but he lived through it all. And then we got married. We were married 54 years when he passed away. So it was a long time.
My favorite part of the letters probably is the longing that I can feel simply by reading my grandma and grandpa's words to each other. That's my favorite part of it. Each letter entailed a longing for each other, this burning for each other, because they didn't see each other for 3 years, 3 months, and 4 days, and they stayed true to each other. Although they were young and didn't know if that person would have changed in 3 years, they waited for each other. And so I just asked my grandma a couple years ago if I could take one of those letters and make a little simple bracelet out of it. And she was like, take whatever you want. We have thousands of these things. It was the back page of a letter from New Year's Eve, 1943. And she was talking about, hopefully by this time next year, you'll be home from the war will be over, and we will have a home of our own and be married. So I took a part of that letter, and it was a really small little space, but what remained was a lot more pretty lipstick and words, and so I decided to use the rest of that to make a necklace, and then a ring, and then another bracelet, and then I started to it started to kind of garner some attention, I guess, from family members and other people. That was about a year ago. And it's pretty much snowballed since then. I take the letters, the original letters, and I make color copies of it to retain all the colors, the old paper colors and the lipstick colors and everything else. And I use different shaped clear glass, and I adhere the copy of the letter to the clear glass. And then I cut that out and then layer it on the bottom with several other pieces of like cardstock and stuff, so nothing bleeds through. And then I use just random glass fragments and gemstones and throw it all together, and usually wrap it in wire and hope it looks okay to somebody. But yeah, that's how I go about it. That's pretty much the standard process. When I've done art shows and stuff like that, or wherever it's being sold, people always kind of look at it like, what's that? And they hear what it is, and they're like, really? World War II love letters from your grandparents. So it's been very well received, and it's just been a lot of fun. For me, I didn't live through it, and I didn't experience all of that, and she's the one who lived through all of it, so she's the one who really has the memories, and I always say she's the true artist behind it, she and my grandpa, because they're the ones who wrote the letters, and they wrote those words. I'm just cutting them up and putting them on glass and wrapping them in wire, so I'm not doing a whole lot. They're the artists behind it all. It's been so much fun the past year, and if it were to all end today, I'd be okay with it, because it's been one heck of a ride and fun having Grandma around to experience it, so it's been wonderful.
My story is about Aviation Heritage Park and how the members of it come together to bring back history in a way that people now can appreciate it. It's about how these Air Force pilots find ways to commemorate other Air Force pilots by renovating airplanes. I actually started working on this my freshman year, and moving from Illinois to Kentucky, I kind of didn't know what Bowling Green was going to be about, and this story brought me into realizing the community here. And it's made me learn that people can come together through anything and they can create something. And it didn't matter if you were part of the crew renovating it. By the end of, getting footage and doing everything, I felt like I was a part of the family there. And, I learned what it is to be part of Bowling Green. And it's a very proud group of people who are, very excited to share what they've done. And the big thing they kept telling me is how they want it to impact future generations. A big thing for me is my grandfather passed away. And he used to always tell stories, and we laughed about, we laughed about the fact that he would always say, "I'm gonna tell you something," or "let me tell you about that." And I don't have those stories anymore. So I get those stories from other people now, and that is so special to be able to figure out that those times sitting on a back porch wasn't just for nothing, but it was making me discover who I wanted to be. And being able to share and tell stories, they'll never be able to leave now, and they'll stick with people. And that's what was so important about being a storyteller for me, was being able to share and learn from other people.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Adam boys, give her the gun, give her the gun. Down we dive, spouting our flame from under. Off with one terrible roar, we live in fame. When we're down in flame, oh, nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
There are a number of aviators in the South Central Kentucky that have made significant contributions to the history of aviation. Their stories go largely untold.
So we're continuously trying to bring stories to the community that people can relate to.
And that's what Aviation Heritage Park's mission is. This particular F-111 that we just finished restoring has a soft spot in my heart. We had always wanted for some time to get an F-111 because we wanted to tell the story of Operation El Dorado Canyon, which was the raid on Libya in 1986. When we flew the Libya raid, I was the commander of the 493rd Tactical Fighter Squadron.
We really wanted Arnie's airplane, which is owned by the Air Force Museum up in Dayton, Ohio, and they said, no, you can't have that one. So we got the next best thing we could.
178 Warhorse flew on the mission, while that was a special tie to what we wanted to tell.
There's a lot of networking to be able to round up the parts, and somebody's usually got one. It's just a matter of finding it.
The airplane has to be what's called demilitarized. They had to make the airplane safe for us to bring it to Bowling Green. But the cockpit was left restored in the sense that the engine, instrument, flight control, all of the instrumentations that are in the cockpit, the faces are still there. Because the airplane's very large, had to be taken apart, the wings had to be taken off, the tail had to be taken off, transported to Bowling Green on 3 different flatbed trucks. The things that we have to do to an airplane really depend on the shape of the airplane when we receive it.
In particular, it was in really excellent condition as far as physical structure.
There wasn't any rebuilding that we had to do. We had to do some repair at certain places where she had been rusted out. Little did we know that the paint that was painted on the airplane, once it was flown back to Cannon Air Force Base in Clovis, New Mexico, the paint that was used on it, we call it Mach 2 paint because we could not get the paint off. We used a process where we used a twisted wire grinding wheel to grind the paint off. And it was a very, very tedious process to grind that paint off without doing damage to the skin underneath. If you look at her today, the way she looks is exactly the way she looked when she launched on the Libya raid on 14th of April, 1986, down to where the decals, the paint scheme is exactly the way she looked the day she launched. At our annual hangar party every year, we try to have an airplane to display, to unveil to the public. And this past year, this past June, we unveiled Warhorse to the public for the first time.
This one was particularly special because we had Arnie's squadron here. Some of the Libyan raiders that were on the original, matter of fact, we had the original flight crew that flew this airplane actually had an opportunity to sit in the airplane while they were here. So it's a pretty big deal for us.
The thing that made that evening so special is when we unveiled that airplane, when that parachute came up and they looked up and they saw their name on the side of the airplane. I think I saw a little tear. I know there was one in my eye. And it was just a real thrill to see those guys climb up and get in that airplane after all those years.
So I was thinking, what do I want to do for this story? And that night we had a basketball game, and I was like, this is a perfect opportunity. There's a story here that a lot of people don't know about. All of us students know about it because we work on the productions, but pretty much outside of our station and outside this university, no one knows that HSSN is primarily student run. We have professionals that help out and coordinate everything, but all the cameras, audio, replays, and all that is all student run. So I thought that was a great opportunity to share this story because when people see it on TV, as you'll see in the piece, people think it's professionally done, which as a student we're honored to hear that. But I just thought this was a great chance to give people a behind the scenes look of how we produce the games and who does it really. Well, the angle shifted just a little bit. When I first was doing it, I was going to do behind the scenes and then talk, and then that would show that students ran it. But after I did the interviews, I found that the real story is about the students and the opportunity that this provides students. And I thought that changing this focus was really good. People support public broadcasting and support HSN through their own donations, and seeing how this impacted students not only reinforces the idea that they should donate to this station, but also reinforces the idea that they're helping people and helping future generations just by a simple donation. I think as a young broadcaster, I pride myself in telling stories and actually getting back to what journalism is about, and that's people and places and why people care. And so I think that this has provided me with a great opportunity.
Hits a three. The lead is at 3.
The new upgrade we got with the truck this past summer was a big deal for everybody involved with it. A lot of work's been done over years and years to get to this. The fact that we're able to use equipment that was used in the Final Four for CBS is really exciting. It was really mind-boggling to me personally at first.
With the new truck, we can create productions that are amazing, like professional quality stuff.
3.5 minutes gone by. Rostow gets a baseline right. Wide on Carter comes up a shot. Carter fouls.
Stand by 2, take 2. Stand by 3, take 3. Lock to red.
I think watching HSSN, especially on WKYU PBS or ESPN3, you think it's an ESPN production. We have the ESPN logos, we have the ESPN graphics package. Everything about it looks ESPN, but instead it is HSSN, Hilltopper Sports Satellite Network. And as an entity of the university here, that means a majority of it is student run.
People are definitely surprised when they find out that this is a mostly student run broadcast. It looks professional.
Tournament next week. Meanwhile, the Hilltoppers are peaking offensively. Now they're averaging 80.
When I told people I worked the TV station, and oh, that's cool. All you do, you're a cameraman. And they actually went back. They actually watched, and it's like, which of those cameras are run by students? All of them. Wait, all of them? All of those cameras are run by students? Yeah, every single camera is run by a student. 95% of the production is done by students.
The professionals take care of all the logistics and everything behind the scenes, but it is us who does most of the production work.
HSSN is great, and that too is that it gives the students experience, actual work experience.
And it's the same equipment that all the professionals are using. And so the ability to use that as students is just absolutely incredible.
It's an opportunity that you can't get anywhere else as a college student. I mean, maybe if you get an internship, you might get to go in LA or Los Angeles and use that kind of equipment, but we're here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, third biggest city in a not that populous of a state, using the best equipment out there.
Most people won't have 3.5, 4 years of experience after they get out of college, so pretty much any job that I want to, I will be able to work on. And so that alone gives me the up on other people that are going into this industry too.
This experience has already started to impact my career. I've gotten to be able to work a few Monday Night Football games with ESPN because of people I've met who are alumni of WKU and HSSN. These people are out there doing awesome stuff, and they know that the students currently here are the ones who know what they're doing. And so if their crew is looking for utility, they know exactly where to look, and that's here at HSSN and the students here at WKU.
The first time I went to Copper Canyon was with a movie called Revelation Trail, who shot locally in Kentucky, and they used Copper Canyon as an Old West town set. So I was actually an extra on the movie, but since I work in television, I decided it would be a good place to come back and actually talk about, because they do so many things with movies and acting, and it's just a neat little town. What called me is just the people. Tim and Carol are some of the nicest people I ever met, and they just have so many interesting things to say and things, because I mean they built this old town from scratch. So I wanted to approach it to find the town through their eyes. We need stories like this because they help to inspire other people, and just to give people something interesting to think about and talk about. Almost everyone I've run into has not known what really Copper Canyon is. So without us telling stories, no one would really know about these things to go to them and to learn from them. Getting to the real story is probably the most important aspect of when I go out and do pieces like this. I feel like a lot of people get caught up in the production and the technology, what sounds, what video we're going to get, when really nothing matters but getting the shots and sound that will tell the story in the most effective way.
We call Copper Canyon Kentucky's hidden secret. That's even our logo on our shirt, you know, if you're on our brochures and stuff. Kentucky's hidden secret, you know. We tore down old buildings and barns and houses, wherever, you know, people give us the materials, you know, to clean it up more or less. And I have a lot of kids and they come here and they ask me, they say, how'd you find this old town? It's funny. You know, I have a lot of people, they still in bewilderment, you know, like, you know, what it's really all about. A lot of people know what it's about. A lot of people, they still scratch their head, what do they do back there, you know? It's worked out good though. Of course, we have a lot of school field trips come through here, and you know, we had family reunions. We've had several weddings here. They love the live shows, and that's what it's all about. This is our theater, you know, and of course we got it set up to where you can shoot angle, any angle, and just about any way you look with your camera, you get a good backdrop. That's what it's designed for. Live action we've been doing since, I guess, 35, 40 years. Been doing the live gunfights. And the film's a relatively new thing. I really never got into big time films. I met Lee Vavort, he's my director.
I help with live shows. I filmed a movie, Guntown, out here in 2009, about this time of year, and hoping to do a sequel. And I do a little bit of everything out here. Hang out, work, all the good stuff. What I like mostly about making films is watching it come together, because by the time it's all done, you can, that's your reward, is seeing all of your hard work come together for the finished product. It helps me develop characters, especially from that time era, because things were different back then, and you have to look at it that way. It's not anything like modern times. It was everything was just rough cut. Things were a lot harder back then. You fit more into a different type of character by going back. I like the simplicity of it. I like the gunfights, and the buildings are very rustic. It's all rough cut wood, and again, it's very simple. Everything's just laid out straight. You know, it's just it's a real nice era. I've known Tim and Carol for over a decade now, and I'm a friend of the family. And I met them when I was in the floor covering business years ago, and I fell in love with the place. I've watched it grow over the years. If I didn't know Tim and Carol, I wouldn't even be able to be involved in stuff like this. So it's a privilege to be their friend and to be involved in their events, and it's all around a good feeling.
I want to see more films. I want to see more films. I encourage you know, more younger stuntmen to come in. A lot of us guys are getting up in age, and hitting that ground, I guess you see, you know, it can be pretty hard. You know, I feel like we've encouraged kids to pursue entertainment and, you know, live theater. You know, these kids got a lot of energy, you know, and they sure bring a breath of fresh air here.
It's the best old Western setting I've seen. I'd say come out, check it out, hang out, hold an event here. It's reasonably priced, it's convenient, it's away from everything, it's away from the hustle and bustle of the big city. And it's totally realistic.
The door is always open, and everybody's always welcome.
Well, we've come to the end of our journey, but we hope you've enjoyed our young storytellers with a tale from Scott Vennell, who brought us a story about love letters from World War II that are finding new life as wearable art in a piece called Forever Agnes. Young storyteller Karen Webb chronicles the resurrection of an F-111 airplane by the people who used it on a mission in Libya. Her story shows us the pride and hard work evident in the beautiful restoration of this historic warplane. Then sports enthusiast Ryan Vennell brings us into the world of television production through his story about working on national television productions for the Hilltopper Sports Satellite Network at WKU. A trip into the past with storyteller Neil Purcell leads us to a Wild West town called Copper Canyon, where bygone days come alive once more. We'd love to hear from you. We welcome any questions, comments, or story ideas. Check out our webpage at the address on your screen. Until next time, I'm Barbara Deeb, reminding you that we're just around the corner on Main Street.